Hello YouTube, I just got my hands on Meepo's latest all-terrain hybrid board called the Rover, and I'm really enjoying it so far. So just to give you a quick look at the board itself, we've got pneumatic tyres, 155mm wheels, dual 1800 watt motors on the rear, belt drive of course, with a nice big metal bash guard to keep the motors safe. On top here we've got a little flap that covers the charging port with a cutout for the on-off button. It's a drop-through deck. It's based on the Meepo Hurricane Bamboo platform, so same shape as the Hurricane Bamboo. So you can see we've got quite an interesting design with bare wood showing through on the top panel and these hexagonal grip cutouts. It's quite thick, the grip, maybe you can see. It's got a slight bit of padding to it, and it's very coarse, a bit like Vicious grip, which I quite like. The deck is very thick. It's 10 pliers of maple and 1 ply of bamboo. There's basically no flex to it at all, and part of the reason for that is you've got a big metal enclosure that runs the entire base of the board. I do like how minimal it is. There's basically no branding on the bottom, it's all just black. Got a little Rover logo here, a couple little safety warnings, and they all seem to be spelt correctly, which is great. One of the big selling points is the price. This board only costs $699, so it's a lot cheaper than most all-terrain boards, but the specs are still pretty good. I love that it's traditional Kingpin trucks. I think these are 100A bushings as standard, and they've been fine for me. I'm a heavy guy, I'm about 230 pounds, and they're still fine, feel perfectly stable. It's a 12S 4P battery, 10 amp hours. And Meepo reckons you'll get about 20 miles on a charge. We'll find out if that's the case or not. Should also mention this is using a JK FOC ESC, which is a new one to me, and that also means a new remote to go along with it. It's got a nice big screen that's not showing up properly on camera, so I'll get a cutaway of that. But it gives you a lot of information. I love how many bars you get on the battery. Not a percentage. Maybe there's a way to get it to show that. Can show the exact voltage if you skip through this menu. But yeah, lots of bars on the battery indicator, which is good because it's more accurate. And it's a comfortable remote, hard plastic, so it's not going to give you that weird sticky rubberized feeling after a few years. A couple big orange buttons, big orange scroll wheel, and we've got low, E probably for eco, S for sport, and S plus. And that's all our drive modes. But yeah, I won't ramble on about the specs for too long because you can just look them all up. But there's a quick look at the board. Let's get to testing it. So to start off, I think I'll just give a few thoughts about the riding experience overall. Very comfy, very stable. It doesn't turn super sharp, so like to do a U-turn, you won't be able to do that just by carving on most streets. You'll probably need to get off and kick the board round, which is a little annoying, but it's not a huge issue. And I definitely prefer it over the surfy feeling of dual Kingpin trucks, purely because at speed it feels super planted. That's exactly what you want when you're going to go over rough terrain like gravel and dirt tracks. I always felt unsafe on a dual Kingpin setup in those kind of situations. Another thing that helps with that is the drop-through deck. The ride height is nowhere near as high as most all-terrain setups. That's a good and a bad thing, because on one hand you feel secure all the time, but it does mean you've got less ground clearance. So if you want to go over some tree roots or rocks or things, you might be hitting the battery enclosure on them. At least it's made of metal, I suppose. But yeah, in short, it's comfy, it's stable, it's smooth. It doesn't have quite the same jolt of power as you get from something like the Meepo Envy, but it's still very nimble, it still feels quick. Let's see how the board did in our other tests. So for the hill climb, the one that I filmed is on the steepest hill in my area, and the board was about 50% battery. At full charge it does go up slightly quicker, but what I really like about this board is that from 50% and down to like 10%, the hill climbing ability doesn't seem to drop. So while the board does slow down to about 13-14 miles an hour, you'll still get that when your battery's about dead. For the speed test, I did a couple runs. I did one at our usual test track and I managed to get 27 miles per hour on GPS, so 1 mile an hour less than what the spec sheet says, but it was very windy, so that'll factor into some extent, but still 1 mile an hour is nothing. This board is pretty damn quick. On a different run, on a slight downhill, I managed to get the GPS up to 29 miles an hour, which feels rapid, and honestly, I'm not looking to go much faster, so perfect for me. Okay, just heading off on our range test. It's a pretty mild day, about 17 degrees, very windy. Sorry if that's ruining the audio, but yeah, I'm just going to set my watch to start tracking the route once I get GPS signal. You would not want to be riding this on street wheels, but this is fine. And this is our destination. Nice reservoir. But as you can see, the pavement ain't really pavement. No problem on an all-terrain board though. Okay, so about halfway around my planned route. A lot harder on the battery than I expected, a lot more gravel than I remembered. But it's a good test for this board, because a regular board would not have made this route. I would have turned back. But yeah, this is doing alright. We're just over half battery, but we've only travelled 7 kilometres. So that's with massive hills, loads of gravel. Don't think we're going to get 20 miles. But let's carry on and see where we get to. Alright, we're basically back to where we started. Got 1 bar left on the battery. It is still riding and it actually still feels quite nippy, but it's basically dead. That makes our total 14.73 kilometers on a very hilly and gravelly route. Okay, so the Meepo Rover. I've really been enjoying using this board. From the first time I rode it, I could tell I'm going to use this one a lot, which is always a good sign. But let's just go through the things that I like and the things I didn't like so much. First thing I like is the price. At just $699, this is like half the cost of most all-terrain boards. I'm talking about the big brands like Evolve, X-Way, Ace-Deck, Propel. You're going to be spending almost double, if not double, to get a similarly spec board. There are other cheap options out there, but I think this one's a cracking value. The styling. I love the minimal underside. I like the plain bamboo top sheet. I think it's just a pretty good looking board. The comfy, stable ride. You can ride over cracks and bumps in the pavement with no issue. Hard packed dirt, gravel tracks. They will rattle your feet a bit more, but it's still a lot more comfortable than the street wheels. And the traditional Kingpin trucks, they turn well enough, but they stay stable at high speed, which is really important to me, because I just can't get along with dual Kingpin trucks. It's not the carviest board out there, but then a big all-terrain wheel board like this, you're probably not going to be carving through like tight little city streets on this. So I think it works well for what it's designed for. It's got plenty of power. I'm a pretty heavy guy. It had no problem getting me up hills. And yeah, it might not have the highest top speed of all the options out there, but it goes more than fast enough for me. And yeah, definitely quick enough to have some good fun with. Decent range. I think for most people's needs, this goes far enough. I'm not quite sure about the advertised 20-mile range. I didn't get that, as you saw, but that was really, really challenging conditions that we tested it in. I think travelling at reasonable speeds on paved roads, 15 miles is definitely achievable, and most people don't need more than that. So yeah, the range is good enough. I love that you get a speedy 4.5 amp charger included in the box. It means it only takes a few hours to charge, even though it's got a relatively big battery, and it's not a massive brick either, which is always nice. As for the things I don't like so much, it draws quite a lot of attention, which sometimes you want, sometimes you don't. But if you're trying to get away with riding this board somewhere where you shouldn't really be riding an electric skateboard, it's nowhere near as stealthy as a street board. I even had one random kid point at me and go, "That's illegal," which has never happened to me on a street board. So take that as you will. I think that's just what you deal with an all-terrain board. It doesn't look like a normal skateboard. There's no real way around that. It's pretty heavy. I did find I could roll it behind me, even though I'm quite tall. I could just grab the bash guards on the back of the motors and drag it behind me like a suitcase, and that worked quite well. But there's no getting around the fact that it is a heavy board. You don't want to be carrying it on your arm all day. You don't want to be strapping it to a backpack. It weighs a lot. And then there's just the fact that it's not suitable for proper off-roading. There's only so much ground clearance on this board. Yeah, it's a lot better than street wheels. Really, we're talking about hard packed dirt and gravel. You're not going to go like completely off-piste with this thing. So should you buy one? Well, if you're looking for this kind of board, I don't think you're going to find a much better deal. It rides really well, super comfy. It's great for like light off-roading. It's great on-road as well, because you never worry about hitting a little pebble or something. So yeah, great board, great fun. Check it out at the link in the description. And yeah, hit subscribe if you like this kind of thing, and I will see you in the next one. Toodles.